Los Angeles, California, kung nasaan, nandito tayo sa Kababayan Today. We're very fortunate all the way from North Carolina. Joining us here on Kababayan Today is Tim Saguinsin, an animator from Rice Cooker Productions, correct?
Yes, Rice Cooker Studios.
Rice Cooker Studios. Yes. Kasama natin si Tim ngayon dahil pag-uusapan natin ang pagiging isang artist animator, okay? Naintindihan mo ba ako, Tim?
I can understand.
Okay, so I know that you were born and raised here in America.
Yes.
And your father was in the Navy. Talk to us about that experience moving around a lot growing up.
Actually, my father was in the Navy for about 26 years. And when we settled in, I was born in Annapolis, Maryland. Mm-hmm. But my sisters were the ones that were able to travel. So my sister was born in the Philippines. My second sister was born in Greece. Mm. But then I was born in Annapolis, Maryland, and then soon after Annapolis, we settled in Norfolk and then Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay, I know there's a very big Filipino-American population in Virginia.
Yes.
So how was it like growing up in Virginia as a Filipino-American?
I was probably in Virginia Beach at a very early time when there weren't that many Filipinos.
Okay.
When I went to school, there was maybe 3 or 4 Filipinos within the school. Mm-hmm. And as I got into middle school, there were a few more. And when I got to high school, there were a lot more. But when I was growing up, I was pretty much one of the only Filipino kids in class. You know, you could see the class pictures. I was one of the only ones that was in there. So
okay.
It was very interesting for me to kind of grow up in a place where I didn't really know the culture of my culture, of being Filipino. It kind of pushed me into being more creative to try and figure out who I was and what I do and what I should be doing with I guess, with my life.
In terms of your family, how did your parents raise you in a way where you are able to be in touch with your culture? Because you understand it, obviously.
I do.
You understand
yeah,
Tagalog.
Uh-huh.
A lot of Filipino Americans, they understand it, but they don't speak it.
It's unfortunate. I'm sad that I don't speak it, but
because you want to,
because
right?
I do want to be able to communicate with it, but I can't understand it. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy about that, and I'd like my kids to be able to understand and speak it as well. So it is kind of, there's a bit of a disconnect in that, and it's unfortunate, but it's never too late to learn.
Absolutely.
You know? It's never too late to
What's
learn.
the difference between parenting then and parenting now in terms of raising your children to know about the culture?
I think back then, it was more about fitting in, and being one of the only Filipinos within the school. Mm-hmm. School, I really wanted to fit in. But then, as I got older, it became more of a want to really learn more about the culture. As I was getting into my teenage years, the search for identity was there, and I didn't have that. I didn't know where to look, or where to find it. Now I think information is readily available for it, and I'd like to see a lot more people creating more content about it, and I'm starting to. It's slowly but surely it's coming.
Yeah, it drives the work that you do.
It drives me, because when I found out that I was having a child, I was like, oh no, how am I going to teach my kid to be Filipino? I was looking for cartoons and animation online. I couldn't find anything. Mm-hmm. So I said, what's going to happen? I figured, I guess I could do this. I know it. I have a bit of an education background, and let's try.
Okay, so I know that you were speaking to me about wanting to be a basketball player when you were younger.
Yeah. Being about 6'3" or 6'4", as a full-blooded Filipino,
yeah,
I was a pretty tall kid.
Yeah,
and very unusual, because my parents were maybe about 5'7", 5'5".
Where did you get those genes from?
I don't know. I really don't know. My mom always says I eat a lot of rice. So it's always been fun, because I wanted to be a basketball player.
And how did you make that transition from sports into the arts? Because now you're an artist, you're an animator.
Right. I think in high school I realized that there was an opportunity for me to play basketball, but there was also another opportunity for me to go to kind of an arts magnet school. Mm. And I realized that my drive and my want to be creative was probably stronger than the small, slim chance that I could go further in basketball. So I chose the art side, and I stayed in the arts. I went to an art school, I graduated, and luckily now I'm still within the arts.
Okay, a lot of families that come here to America, they continuously ask their children to pursue a professional degree, such as lawyers, doctors,
Absolutely.
right? When you told your parents that you wanted to get into the arts, how was that struggle like?
That was interesting. I'll tell you, that was very interesting because I did very well in school. A doctor or a lawyer or an engineer was something that I could have done. But when I realized that I really wanted to do the arts, it took a lot of lobbying. And a lot of my teachers were, don't get me wrong, my parents were 100% supportive of everything and anything that I would do. But I think they needed a little bit more support. They needed a little bit more backing from somebody else. So
they basically interviewed the people that.
Well, I got every time
with.
there was an art opening or something like that, I would ask my teachers to say, you know, could you kind of help me out a bit and tell my parents that it's actually pretty good. And I think my parents knew it. Let him do what he wants to do, because I think he's very good at it. And I think hopefully I've made them proud.
I'm sure you have, Tim. I know also that you came out with a project called Mangingisda.
Yes.
And this was picked up by HBO.
Yes, it was.
And that's very exciting.
It was very exciting when I heard the call. They actually called me.
Wow,
and they said,
they reached out to you.
They reached out to me and said, we'd like to have this on HBO for Asian Heritage Month.
Amazing.
And I was flabbergasted. I was on the floor and I said, this is HBO? And they said, yes. And they just said, you know, we'd love to have your project on. And I said, absolutely, let's do it.
So see, he could have been a doctor. He could have gone into the profession of being a lawyer. But you know what? He followed his dreams and his heart, and HBO was calling, right?
Yes.
So when we get back, we'll talk more to Tim about being an animator here in America and being a Filipino-American animator at that. Don't go away here on Kababayan Today.